This week on the agenda, cracking down on social media as Australia bans all under-16s from using the likes of TikTok, Facebook and YouTube. Is the rest of the world ready to follow suit? Australia has now become the first country in the world to ban anyone under the age of 16 from using social media. Young people can now no longer set up new accounts on services including TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat and Threads, and all existing profiles must be deactivated. The rest of the world and the tech giants are watching closely, with Denmark already announcing similar plans for the future. But the youth of Australia aren't taking the ban lightly, with two teenagers heading to the country's High Court early next year to try to overturn the ban.
I believe that as a young Australian, we as a whole will have our constitutional right taken away from us, and we will also be invisible with this ban. We won't be able to share our views or opinions, and we won't be able to hear others' views and opinions, political or just about anything. And I feel that most people will get quite separated, but I also feel that we have social media. It's the new, modern day town square. This is how information gets passed around everywhere. If we're being real, this is how, the main form of information. Instead of cutting kids off from social media, because we're not the problem, we should be cutting off the bad things about social media, the online bullies, the predators and the explicit content. We should be looking to get rid of that instead of the young Australians who haven't done anything wrong.
Joining me now are Australian Youth Engagement Specialist Paris McNeil and Mikkel Flyvebom, Professor at Denmark's Copenhagen Business School. Thank you both for coming on the agenda. Paris, let me start with you. The Australian government says the ban is necessary to protect their children from addiction and things like cyberbullying. But we heard there a rather different perspective about being cut off from the political discourse. What's your take?
Social media isn't inherently good or bad. There are good and bad parts of it. So the Australian government is trying to reduce some of the more harmful aspects of social media through this legislation. So reducing the addiction and the cyberbullying and the harassment that a lot of young people are experiencing. But with a blanket ban, they're also going to lose some of the good parts, the connection, the support, the inspirational content that they're seeing, and also the way that a lot of young people learn about and express their political views. So there'll be both good and bad parts of this social media ban, and it's about how we'll manage it. There have been a legal challenge that's been launched by two 15-year-olds, and they've said that the social media ban infringes the implied right to freedom of political communication. So that's currently with the High Court of Australia at the moment. We'll have to have a look at how that case plays out.
Mikkel, Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, has said that mobile phones and social media are stealing our children's childhood. Is that really the case?
I think it makes sense to put it that way if you think about all the things that increasingly social media, but also games and so on, are sort of challenging in children's lives. So I think most people would agree that children need exercise, they need sleep, they need meaningful social relationships. They also need this ability to kind of, engage with the world in physical ways. And in many ways, social media and other types of digital platforms have really taken over a lot of these activities and carved out this space from children's lives. So in that sense, I think it makes sense to at least flag this problem that so many kids are not getting their sleep, not getting their exercise, not engaging in things that everyone would agree are central for kids to engage in their early childhood. And I also think it makes sense to sort of remind people that kids are experiencing things online that are really not for kids, that we would protect them from in other parts of life, but that for some reason the digital domain has given them access to. So this is what she means, and this is, I think, the concern that many people who care about children's well-being are focused on.
I think both of you here are talking about getting a balance right and that level of overseeing what children do. But Paris, let's talk about the practicalities here. I mean, how is the ban in Australia going to work, and what might the consequences be?
What's going to happen is a young person is going to get a notification on their account that will say, in order to continue to use your account, you need to prove how old you are. So that young person will be presented with a number of options for age verification. That might be facial recognition, that might be uploading a form of ID, or even linking with a bank account. If that young person is over 16 and they verify their age, they're all good to go. If they're under 16, they can't prove their age, they'll be logged out and they'll be locked out of their account until they turn 16. The consequences are that the responsibility is put squarely on the social media companies. So there's no fines for a young person who finds a loophole, no punishment or fine for a parent of a young person that finds a loophole. There's no requirement on schools to report anything. It's all on the social media platforms. So if the eSafety Commissioner, the regulator, thinks that they haven't taken enough reasonable steps to prevent young people from accessing their platform, then the maximum penalty that the regulator can dish out is a $49.5 million Australian fine. So a fairly big fine for our regulator.
Does sound that way, doesn't it? And Mikkel, Denmark's also introducing some restrictions on social media use too, but how do they differ from what's being put in place in Australia?
So in many ways, they don't really differ that much, apart from Australia being further ahead in this. And also there's a difference when it comes to the age. So Denmark is aiming for 15 years as the cutoff point, with an opportunity or a possibility for parents to actually give access to children at the age of 13 if they wish to do so. But I think it's important to stress that what we're doing in Denmark also includes a technical solution to age verification that I think solves some of the problems we have seen in other parts of the world, such as the UK, and also I think we'll see in Australia. So what you have to do in Denmark is simply to use a government created app that allows you to verify your age by simply sharing whether you are under or above the required age. So it's a kind of digital wallet where you can include different types of personal information. And for this purpose, all you'll share is whether you're under or above the age of 15. So this means you don't have to share your face, you don't have to share a passport or other sensitive information with these platforms. So it's a kind of minimal solution when it comes to data sharing, and it also, I think, solves some of the problems that we may see in other parts of the world where people can trick these facial recognition systems in ways that allow kids to get access even if they're not old enough. So I think the technical solution to this is maybe the biggest difference.
Now, Paris, it seems that what Mikkel is talking about, I'll pick up on something that he said, was his minimal solutions here that tend to be targeting children rather than the social media companies. I'm wondering, would you like to see more being done around this harmful content that both of you have been talking about here, about restricting that? Isn't that the issue, rather than children having to tick certain boxes?
A blanket ban is never going to be popular or perfect, but I think that something needed to happen. These platforms have been making billions of dollars off of pushing their harmful content through these insidious algorithms to our children. They've had years to clean up their platforms, and it's actually got worse. So they weren't going to do anything. That's how they make their money. I'm yet to see a platform take significant steps in this area. And that's why legislation has to be brought in to hold these platforms to account. And it needed to be something drastic to get them to actually sit up and listen and go, okay, well, this is now part of our social license to operate in Australia.
Mikkel, would you agree with that? So what impact do you think this is really going to have on, let's face it, some of the world's most valuable companies? You know, I'm thinking Alphabet, I'm thinking Meta. Is this really going to hit them where it hurts?
Well, to the degree that these children are no longer going to be on their platforms, I think it's going to make a difference because they have taken these choices that Paris also were talking about to include children and not protect children and so on and so forth, simply for purely commercial reasons, because the earlier they get them in, the more they can use them for these commercial purposes. So I think it will impact them in the sense that they will have to deal with this, and they will also lose a part of their customer base that is very valuable to them. And also, I think the Danish social media ban also comes out of a realization or a kind of statement made by Danish politicians a couple of years ago that they would actually stop having dialogues with these companies because it was futile. It was not changing anything at all to engage with the conversations you would normally have with companies and industries in other parts of our societies, and the kind of irresponsibility of these companies is glaring to most people, I think. So this is why, in many ways, these other types of measures have been taken.
Okay, so that's the impact it might have on big tech, on the companies. Paris, what do you think the impact of bans like this are going to be on young influencers?
Well, it's going to hit young influencers pretty hard. There are a lot of Australian influencers, and not even just influencers, but young people with businesses who promote their services on social media, who are really worried about how that's going to affect their income, their livelihood, and their brand. It is important for them to think about alternative ways. Maybe they set up a portfolio website and share their services there, but it will fundamentally change how they go about promoting themselves and their businesses.
Mikkel, I'm wondering, do you think there's more that governments could do to actually regulate rather than putting restrictions on banning social media?
Well, I think this initiative doesn't stand alone. I mean, it's part of a broad set of efforts to rein in these companies and make them respect the normal rules of society and regulation across the board. So I think we need to see it in combination with the types of EU regulation like the Digital Services Act and so on and so forth that puts demands on these companies to live up to normal expectations, so to speak. So I think there's both a kind of regular dimension to this, but also a kind of cultural dimension. I think it's important to keep in mind that the types of developments we've seen and that have impacted children in this area have only been around for maybe 15 years. It's not like it's a thing that has existed always, and I think we'll kind of think of this as a particular moment in history where we didn't protect children and didn't take responsibility both as companies and as governments and so on and so forth.
Paris, do you think that we need to focus more on educating children on how to use social media, perhaps, rather than resorting to a ban?
The social media ban will only be effective if we educate kids as well. The point of it in Australia, the government is trying to reframe that language and not call it a social media ban, but rather a delay. So they're being delayed from coming on from 13 to now 16 years old. In that time, in the middle, between 13 and 16, we now have 3 extra years where we can educate young people about cyber safety and about the critical thinking skills that they need when they come back online, especially in this world that is driven by AI-generated content. We're seeing more and more misinformation online. Kids need to be able to recognize that and understand what's real and what's not. What should I trust and what do I need to question a little bit more? Schools will play a really important role in educating them on these topics, and also because not every platform is going to be included in the ban. Kids will still be able to game, they'll still be able to stream, so we need to teach them the skills that will apply across the internet, not just on social media.
Mikkel, would you agree with that? I mean, what more could schools be doing to educate children about the use of social media?
I would totally agree. I mean, in many ways, we need to do both. And I think the problem is that the focus so far, and also this has also been the narrative from these tech companies, that all we need is parents to step up and kids to be educated and sort of control their impulses. But I think in many ways we're shifting away from that kind of focus on education as the only thing and talking about more institutional or structural solutions, just like we have in other areas of social life. It's not like we expect kids to know things about medicine or other kind of dangerous kind of substances and products and so on and so forth. We also have ways of controlling access to those. So I think it's a combination of education plus some political, regulatory, structural kind of initiatives that are really not that, if you think about it, not that foreign to us. I mean, we do restrict access and delay access to so many other products in society without really thinking of that as a kind of very, hard kind of ban. It's more about protection, really. So I think education and these regulatory structural initiatives need to go hand in hand. And this is, I think, what will be the best outcome of this.
Paris, you mentioned there that not everything comes under this ban. Like online gaming will still be accessible to younger children. AI chatbots aren't covered either. I'm just thinking about this report that we've had in the UK. It claims that a quarter of teenagers use AI chatbots for support with their mental health. So what marks those things out? Do we need to ban or restrict access for some of these? Who's going to decide which ones are good and which ones are not?
Yes, that's correct. So gaming platforms and standalone messaging apps are not included in the ban. There's no mention of any AI chatbots or any of those things being included either. And that's because kids still need to connect. We need to give them opportunities to have community and to be able to talk to each other. But it comes back to the education piece. We need to teach them, and they need to have the skills to be safe in all different facets of the internet, be that when talking with AI chatbots or using gaming platforms, because there are risks associated with all of those. Parents do need to be aware of which platforms their kids are using and whether they're happy for them to be on those platforms or not. When it comes to AI chatbots, that statistic tells me that kids are lonely, kids are seeking out support. And that is one of the objectives of the social media ban, to have a way to help children to develop deeper, more meaningful relationships. I run workshops with young people directly, and they tell me all the time that they want to hang out in person more often. But at the moment, they have this frictionless alternative that is just pulling out your phone and flicking someone a message. That's so much easier, but it is so superficial. It's not making the cut. They are lonely, and we need to fill that with something else, something better, in-person connections that are actually deep and meaningful. Otherwise, they will just turn to other tech alternatives, gaming and streaming platforms that are still accessible to them.
So Australia's ban is now in effect. Mikkel, Denmark is about to follow suit. Do you see other places around the world following suit? Who and where? When?
I think countries with a focus on ways of protecting their children will move in this direction. So I think we'll see other parts of Europe, maybe some parts of the US and other parts of the world really think about ways to create better forms of protection and to solve this problem that we have let some companies into our children's very intimate spheres in ways that are actually harmful for them and are not aligned with the values that we otherwise work from. So I think this is part of a growing kind of global realization across the world by many countries that there needs to be a much better alignment between the technologies that are available and in use and the kind of societal values that are in place. These are things that all societies have developed and nurtured and think about as their future. And I think the realization is that you cannot have technologies that work counter to that. So a kind of growing focus on aligning technology and societal values is, I think, a broad movement we'll see in years to come. And this social media ban is obviously part of that attempt to create better alignment.
Mikkel Flyvebom, Paris McNeil, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Young people in China may not have access to the same platforms as their counterparts in the West, but concerns over social media use are certainly global. So just how is China dealing with the issue? Here with me now is Dr. Crystal Li Jiang, Associate Professor and Director of Outreach and Engagement at the Department of Media and Communication at City University in Hong Kong. Thanks for coming on the agenda. So, Crystal, are there similar concerns in China about young people's dependence on social media to those which have led to the ban in Australia?
Yeah, of course, there are similar concerns over children's social media use. So including similar reasons like, cyberbullying, online harassment, and other harmful content. But in China, I think the definition of harmful content is a little bit wider. So it can include like adult material, possible scams, and anything that can distract students or kids from study. And also, most recently, there are rising concern over their eyesight. So we do see a rising a percentage of short-sightedness among children.
So how does China regulate children's social media use?
Well, I would say, there are three layers. Of course, it's a consensus there here that, parents should monitor their children's cell phone use. And also in school, I think it's a common practice that, children cannot take their cell phone to campus. Maybe for older kids, when they have cell phone, they can bring it to school, but they need to hand it in to their teacher. And they will only get it back until weekends when they get off the school. And also, the third layer would be on the social platform. So all the social media platforms are instructed to introduce time limit and also children-friendly mode so that they don't spend too much time playing around on social media.
The CAC, or the Cyberspace Administration of China, has this Clean Net campaign, which earlier this year said it aims to crack down on malicious incitement of negative emotions and create a more civilized and rational online environment. How is it going about that?
Well, I guess this campaign is mainly conducted through mitigation on social media platforms. I think early this year, all the major social media platforms were involved, including Rednote, WeChat, TikTok, the Chinese version of TikTok, and a bunch of news websites like UC and Toutiao. So what they have been doing is two things, I would say. The first is they want to keep a closer eyes on the online influencers. So many online influencers were banned or penalized for inappropriate content, especially for spreading negative emotions or sentiments. And also, the platforms are instructed to sort of top up or leverage their level of monitoring through different kind of keywords. And also, they need to sort of modify their algorithm. So those negative content, also called sentiment, will not be spread out on social media.
You mentioned concerns about children's eyesight, so I'd just like to move away from social media, because in 2021, China introduced those restrictions on the amount of time that under-18s were allowed to spend playing video games. What impact has that really had on Chinese teenagers?
Well, I would say if you look at the numbers, in terms of number of hours they spend playing games, yeah, of course, we see a huge drop since 2021. So depending on whether you take it as a good indicator, but of course, we do see some, in a lot of cases, children will just use parents or grandparents' account. So they use those adult accounts to play. And also, this ban actually led to a lot of so-called in the gray market. So in the gray market, you actually can hire people to play games for you. Yeah, so there's a lot of this kind of, I would say, a new practice or new business model that are originated from this ban.
How central would you say that children's mental health is to these kind of protection measures that are being put in place?
Oh, yeah, of course. Mental health is one of the concerns for sure. It's concerns that are regarding more and more important. But as I mentioned earlier, the definition of harmful content in China is a little bit wider. So it can include like any direct distractions that have a consequence on academic performance. So eyesight, as you just mentioned, right? So, and also the spread of negative emotion or different kind of lifestyle, right? So recently, there's a lot of stuff online really about the lying flat. So it's about advocating, a less positive lifestyle. So these can all be regarded as concerns for regulating the content on the internet.
There is an awful lot of stuff online, and it can become quite an addictive thing, can't it? I mean, is it really possible to create this more civilized and rational online environment that the CAC, along with many other bodies around the world, are seeking? Or has the horse already bolted?
I think that's a really tough question, or this is a really very complicated issue. In my opinion, I think, probably the solution is not just about like, we blame the internet for everything, right? So for me, I think the internet is somehow a reflection of the reality. And of course, it sort of amplifies, the problems we have, interplays with all these ongoing social processes. So I would say, like, in the past decade, our media landscape and also socioeconomic environment have changed a lot. So all this have certain impact on our media ecology and on all the business model of the internet. So, the point is, I think the point I'm trying to make here is, so it's not just about like, we regulate the internet or we regulate the social media use. We probably need a more holistic and more systematic approach to solve the problems together.
Crystal Li Jiang, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can watch every episode of The Agenda in full on CGTN Europe's YouTube channel. And for exclusive extra content from me, my guests and the rest of the team, don't forget to check out @The Agenda Show on TikTok. Coming up on a future agenda, the new geography of innovation. Where should the world be looking for the next tech giant? But for now, from me, Juliet Mann, and from all the Agenda team here in London, goodbye.